Day. It is April 28th, and we are continuing today with our reading for our mentor read aloud and continuing with our Unit 10, our brand new unit on forces and motion. So the lesson will be focusing on movement, and we're going to be reading a very special story that is near and dear to my heart. It is the story of Balto. So you can be thinking who Balto might be and what it might be about. So we are going to be turning now and looking at the front page in our mentor read aloud. So this is titled The True Story of Balto, the Sled Dog. So right away we know in the title it says true story, so we know this is real. This is a nonfiction. And looking at the photos on this page, we see real photos. So we know that this story is about a dog. It says the sled dog. So we know that Balto is his name, and we can infer that Balto is the sled dog that the story is about. We also see some other dogs on the page, and we see a separate dog over here. This might be Balto. We'll have to read and find out. So with our photographs, and we see a map here, we know that this is definitely a true story, and it's going to be, we are going to be learning information about who Balto is and why is Balto important. So that's a question you should be thinking and asking yourself. Why are we reading about this dog named Balto? So we're going to go ahead and begin, and we're going to listen to the narrator. The narrator is going to read the entire story first.
The True Story of Balto, the Sled Dog.
In 1925, people in Nome, Alaska, were sick and dying. They needed medicine from Anchorage to get well. But Anchorage was far away, and there was a blizzard. Planes couldn't fly, so the medicine was sent by dog sled. A relay of dog sled teams was used because the trip would take many days. Balto led the team for the last part of the trip, the longest part. It took great force to pull the sled through deep snow. The storm was so bad that sometimes Balto couldn't see the trail, but he always found his way. Finally, the freezing, exhausted team reached Nome. Balto was a hero.
Oops, I went too far. Oh, that's the end. For some reason, I was thinking that this was more than 2 pages. Okay, all right, so this is the story of Balto. And so we're focusing today on the details of his story and what he did and why it was important. Okay, so let's go back over here. We see at the very beginning, it says in 1925. So this was a long time ago, almost 100 years ago, because we're in 2020. People in Nome, Alaska were sick and dying. They were sick and dying. So sick people in Nome, Alaska needed, what would they need? They needed medicine from Anchorage in order to get well. So this right here, boys and girls, is our first detail. And I'm going to go ahead and write on the book because I can. This is detail number 1. So this whole section right here on this page, page 44, this whole area shares and tells us the first detail. So, okay, they need medicine. What's the big deal, right? Nowadays, we just go to the store and we get our medicine, but not back then. It says in the next sentence, Anchorage, the only place they could get the medicine was in Anchorage, and Anchorage was far away. We see here that Anchorage was very far away, and looking over here on our map on this page, we see this is where Nome is, and this is where Anchorage is. So this is a long ways to go. And it says Anchorage was far away, and there was a blizzard. So because there was a blizzard, planes couldn't fly. So the only way that they could get the medicine was they had to send a dog sled. That's a sled led by a group of dogs, pulled through the snow. And a person has to be at the end of the sled in order to control and direct the dogs. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and underline planes couldn't fly. So the medicine was sent by dog sled. So that is detail number 2. So we have a relay of a dog sled team that was set up and used in order to make this trip, because it was going to be a long and difficult trip. It was going to take many days. We see right here. So we understand that Balto led the team. So that's where Balto comes in and why Balto was so important. Balto led the team for the last part. This was a very difficult trip. Balto led the team through the longest part. It was the last part of the trip when most animals are very, very tired, and it was also the longest part. So that is detail number 3. I'm going to go ahead and put a 3 up here. And it says that it took great force to pull the sled through the deep snow. The snow was so bad. Remember in our story of the Great Blizzard? We've talked about how bad blizzards can be. The storm was so bad that sometimes Balto couldn't even see the trail. I'm going to underline that because that goes to the explanation of why this is such a difficult trip and how that led to Balto being so important on this trip. It says he could not see the trail, but he found his way anyway. He found his way. So I'm going to put a 4 right here. That is detail number 4. And finally, the exhausted team reached Nome. They finally made it after several days, and Balto was a hero. So that would be number 5. And we can see, whoops here, trying to make the number 5. We see this right here is a statue of Balto. Because he was so famous in what he did, so heroic, they had a statue built of him. And that's what this is right here. It's a little bit difficult to see, but it is a statue, and it is still displayed today. So I have put all of our details that we just talked about are in this very nice bubble map. And we're going to review over it one more time. I wanted you to see it written in words. This is the true story of Balto, the sled dog. So reviewing one more time, detail number 1, sick people in Nome, Alaska needed medicine from Anchorage in order to get well. Planes couldn't fly in the blizzard, so a dog sled team had to carry the medicine. Detail number 3, Balto led the team through the longest, most difficult part of the trip. And sometimes Balto could not even see the trail, but he still found his way. And last, Balto was a hero. So this kind of maps it out for you into a nice little form here. So now we're going to move on to the next part of our reading of Balto. I know I marked the whole thing up here quite a bit. So we're doing, this is actually now day 2, would be day 2 of our story. And we are going to be looking at what might a person Why might a person, or when would a person use a map? How does a map provide the reader with more information? So why was this map put here? Okay, when we look over here, we read the first sentence in the text. It says, in 1925, people in Nome, Alaska were sick and dying. I asked myself, where is Nome? We hear Nome, Alaska, but without the map, we wouldn't have a good idea of where that is. So here is a nice picture of the map of Alaska with the city marked with the red dot of Nome. We look at the map to find out. We can see Nome on the map. In the next sentence, it reads that they needed medicine from Anchorage to get well. So looking back at the map, we don't know where Anchorage is unless we look at the map, and we can see right over here exactly what's going on with our map and exactly where Anchorage is located. We can see it is a long way from Nome. Sick people needed medicine, but they had no way of getting it from Anchorage to Nome because of the blizzard. So looking closer at this map, what does the yellow line on the map show? The yellow line shows the trail that they had to take in order to get the medicine from Anchorage to Nome. How does the map help you understand the problem in the selection? Well, as we just explained, I explained, and in the story, it shows the distance, how far away the two cities are. And it helps you to understand what the problem is. How does the map and the photo help you understand why Balto was a hero? Because we can clearly see how far away it is. And we also know we have additional information that a blizzard is going on. So this team of dogs, with their bare paws, had to trudge through that snow and pull a man at the end of the sleigh and all that medicine. So why do you think the author put the map on this story? Is so that we can truly appreciate and understand the magnitude of difficulty that it was for Balto to achieve this task and to get that, to help get the medicine. Remember, he wasn't the only one. There was a whole team of sled dogs, but Balto is the one who led them at the very end when they were exhausted and tired, and he had the longest part of the trip to go. So the last final part of what we're going to be looking at is the relationship between the pictures, the images of the photos, and our text. So we've done that a lot this year, and I know you've gotten really good at that. So we see the photos here. And why do you think the author chose the photo of the dog sled team? Why do you think this one is here? And how did this photo help you to understand the text up above? So we're going to be looking at a 3-column chart to help you better understand what we're looking at right now and what we're going to be talking about. So the first 2 sentences mention 2 places in Alaska that are important to the selection. We talk about how the author included a map to help us understand the information in these sentences. The next sentence tells more about the problem. Because of the blizzard, planes could not fly the medicine from Anchorage to Nome. And the last sentence on the page tells us that the dog sled team made the trip. So the photo across the bottom of page 44 and 45 matches our text, and it shows a dog sled team in the blizzard. The sentence reads, because the trip from Anchorage to Nome was so long, they had to use a relay of dog sled teams. So I wonder which teams this photo shows. Maybe it's Balto's team, maybe it's not. Okay, so now we're going to look closer and use our chart to help us out. So focusing, we're going to go back on sentences 1 and 2, and we're going to be looking at the map again. I know we've already been doing that. Which photos show Balto? How do you know? So we actually already covered this. Sentences 1 and 2 and 3. The images show the map. I'm going to go back and read sentences 1, 2, and 3. In 1925, people in Nome, Alaska were sick and dying. They needed medicine from Anchorage to get well, but Anchorage was far away, and there was a blizzard, and planes couldn't fly. So looking at our chart here, as we were saying, the image of the map and the large photo, the relationship is the map shows the location mentioned in the text, the map shows the distance between Anchorage and Nome, and the photo shows a blizzard. So that information is what we just talked about. Now we're going to be looking at sentences 4 and 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, and sentence 4 starts about right here. So sentence 4 and 5. Planes couldn't fly, so the medicine was sent by dog sled. A relay of dog sled team was used because the trip would take many days. So we see the photo here, the large photo. This shows one of the dog sled teams. We don't know what dog sled team this is, but it shows one of them. So over on our chart, sentences 4 and 5, large photo. The photo shows one of the dog sled teams. Now we're going to look back on sentence 6 that shows all the photos and the photo of Balto. Balto led the team, a team, from the last part of the trip, the longest part. And so here we see Balto at the bottom of the page. And we can infer that this is Balto, even though it doesn't say. But the photo on page 44 is very likely Balto. We look closely. Let's take a look at what he looks like. He has one white front paw. We see that this is Balto in the small photo on page 45 up here. See the white paw in the statue. It is also, and so if we look over here, do you see a dog with one white paw? It's kind of hard to see. It says that Balto is one of the dogs that was leading the team. I want you to notice something else. Look at all these people back here. We don't see it too well, but we can see there's a lot of people back here. And we see that they are here when Balto returns. This helps us to understand that Balto finished the trip and why he was a hero. So coming back and finishing up our chart, sentences 10, 11, the large photo and the photo on page 45 shows people and explains what Balto did. That he led the team and he helped them to finish the race, the trip. There are a lot of people gathered, and this helps us to understand that Balto finished the trip and why he was such an important hero and why that he is a hero today. Because if it wasn't for Balto, there's a possibility that this dog sled team wouldn't have made it because Balto was that strong of a dog. So I hope you enjoyed this story of Balto and learning a little bit about this very unique, special, strong, heroic animal. We don't always hear about animals being heroes. So this is one time that we get to see an animal that truly, truly was a hero for the people of Nome, Alaska. And think of all the people he brought that medicine to. He probably saved many lives. So even all the more why we can appreciate what he did. And that's the end of Balto for today. We will come back and be reading more about Balto on Thursday. Bye-bye.